Party peoples of the interwebs, this is literally the stuff out of which John Wick movies are made. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, in my home office with the beautiful setting sun in the free state of Florida. And it's been a while since I've done one of these, but we have a damn good reason to do one tonight. It is about Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon. Now, for those of you who may not remember what exactly happened with Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon, they were two pets that a man named Mark Longo had in New York State that were seized and euthanized by the state because they got anonymous complaints, or maybe not anonymous complaints that he had two animals in his house that were rabies vectors.
We just learned that they have euthanized Peanut.
And the raccoon as well.
And the raccoon as well. I am so sorry. This must be really difficult for you.
It not only tears my family apart, but Peanut was the cornerstone of our nonprofit animal rescue. And 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer. I was sat outside my house for 5 hours. I had to get a police escort to my bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to feed my rescue horses breakfast or lunch. I was sat there like a criminal after they interrogated my wife to check out her immigration status, then proceeded to ask me if I had cameras in my house, then proceeded to go through every cabinet, nook, and cranny of my house for a squirrel and a raccoon.
They got a search warrant?
They got a search warrant. 4 departments and a judge signed off on a search warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon. And then they took them and killed them.
The government literally came to his home, entered his property like a dozen agents. They seized his squirrel and his raccoon, his pets that he had had for years. He had a TikTok channel for them. They seized the pet squirrel and pet raccoon, who were internet celebrities, and they euthanized them. They decapitated the squirrel to make sure that it didn't have rabies. And today, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch published some information that he got as a result of FOIA-type requests. And what is revealed is that this was an absolute overreach by the government, that they came in looking to kill those animals, even though they had no good excuse to do it. Now, for those of you who may not know my internet history, some might say that I became internet famous as a result of a squirrel video that went viral about 10 years ago. It was called Squirrel Steals GoPro, carries it up a tree, and then drops it. So yeah, that is my origin story on the internet, and it's not because I have a thing for squirrels that I am particularly sensitive to this story. This story is what happens when an administrative state runs amok and thinks it can literally take your stuff and murder your pets, and nobody should take this lightly. I actually replied to a post on X which said, "Why are you people losing it over a squirrel and raccoon? There are so many more important things to be concerned about. Eliminate government in our lives and these issues will not happen." To which I responded, it's not about the pets, not about the squirrel, not about the raccoon. It's about absolute governmental overreach, the administrative state gone mad, and a government that thinks it can come into the sanctity of your home and destroy your property and murder your pets with impunity. Do you now understand why it's important? Well, today, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, and I had him on the channel a while ago. He is an awesome guy with massive biceps. He does the Lord's work in terms of FOIA requests, holding the government to account, and they did a FOIA request. For some reason, the state was not particularly responsive, but they got documents now, and these documents show that the government came in looking to kill these animals. From Judicial Watch, because no one is above the law, press releases April 22nd, 2025, Judicial Watch, New York authorities plan to euthanize Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon before seizing them from owner. In the post on X, breaking, Judicial Watch received 163 pages of records from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation in a lawsuit which shows authorities had planned to euthanize a squirrel named, quote, Peanut, end quote, and a raccoon named, quote, Fred, end quote, before they were seized from New York resident Mark Longo. You can go read the other 2 of the 3 posts on X on Judicial Watch's X account, but to get to the publication itself, because they do a good job summarizing the essence of what went down, and it's absurd. Washington, D.C., Judicial Watch announced today it received 163 pages of records from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation in a Freedom of Information Law FOIL lawsuit, which show authorities had planned to euthanize a squirrel named Peanut and a raccoon named Fred before they were seized from Pine City, New York resident Mark Longo. The incident report from the raid on Longo's home shows that 12 law enforcement personnel were involved in the October 30, 2024 operation to seize Peanut and Fred. The records also show that Peanut was decapitated for rabies analysis after a wildlife biologist who seized the animal from Longo claimed to have been bitten on the thumb. Now, why is this so enraging? Well, there's 2 reasons why this is so enraging. As someone who's had a lot of internet experience with squirrels, I happen to know as a matter of fact that there has never been a case of transmission of rabies from a squirrel to a human because squirrels generally don't carry rabies in the first place. So not only has there never been a case of transmission of rabies from a squirrel to a human, the person who claimed to have gotten bitten on the thumb didn't actually really get bitten on the thumb because they were wearing latex gloves under leather gloves, and the bite didn't puncture the latex gloves under the leather gloves, so they just flat out lied. Quote, "They treated me like I was a terrorist. They treated this raid as if I was a drug dealer. They ransacked my house for 5 hours," Longo told the New York Post. Peanut, also known as Peanut, was popular on social media. Quote, "New York State bureaucrats did not want to turn over these documents, but Judicial Watch's lawsuit forced their hand," end quote, said Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Quote, "The documents show an abuse of power where 12 officers were sent in on a raid to seize Peanut and Fred, who the bureaucrats decided beforehand would be killed. These documents show the killing of Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon was the result of pure government abuse and insanity," end quote. And getting back to the guy who lied about having bitten on the thumb, yeah, he got bitten on the thumb. It didn't go through the leather glove. It didn't go through the latex glove. So he just said, "I got bitten," decapitated the squirrel so they could test it for rabies, because apparently that's the only way you can test for rabies. The reporting officer notes that after the squirrel was found, quote, "Longo began pleading not to take the squirrel," end quote. "I was advised that while capturing the squirrel while wearing latex gloves under heavy-duty leather gloves, wildlife biologist, redacted, was bit, sick, on the thumb. Redacted stated that the bite didn't appear to break the latex glove, but wasn't sure. Redacted showed me the abrasion on her thumb." The officer writes that he called the Chemung County Health Department to advise them a squirrel and raccoon that cohabitated a common living area were confiscated during the investigation. Redacted was advised that the squirrel had bitten a DEC employee, that the incident and investigation is high profile, and then was asked if the animal should be tested for rabies since the raccoon is a rabies vector species. Redacted stated that both animals should be tested as a precaution as she didn't want to chance it. And why did they carry out this raid in the first place? Well, they got complaints from people online who said that they saw videos on TikTok of a squirrel and a rabbit living in living spaces with another human. Now, you should know that keeping a raccoon as a pet is not unheard of at all. There are entire communities of this. And keeping a squirrel as a pet is not unheard of at all either. It's just some jealous, awful internet people who take to anonymous complaints to get the government involved, and then the government comes in and murders your pets. On October 22nd, 2024, an individual whose name is redacted sends an email complaining about Longo's videos involving Fred the raccoon under the heading, quote, "Raccoon animal abuse," end quote. The sender of the email states, "I'd like to report an account I follow online, Mark Longo in Pine City, New York. This man takes videos farm animals without water or shelter. He has been showing his squirrel, Peanut, in a dirty, disgusting room. He's been doing TikTok live all week. He's got a pretty large raccoon in what appears to be his kitchen in a small cage. It looks like a very small dog crate. He takes it out during his lives sick and puts him back in. This is no way for an animal to live. I also believe it's illegal to keep a pet raccoon in New York. He said its name is Fred." And what does the government do? Well, on the basis of these online complaints, these emails, they come into Longo's property, seize his pets, and murder them for no better reason. Another officer who organized the raid on Longo's home reveals that at least 12 law enforcement personnel were involved in the raid to seize Peanut and Fred, including, quote, 3 DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, investigators, 1 lieutenant, 4 uniformed ECOs, environmental control officers, 1 uniformed lieutenant, and 3 Bureau of Wildlife staff, end quote. Another officer's statement indicates that Fred the raccoon was found hidden in a piece of luggage in Longo's house, and Peanut the squirrel was found in a bathtub in the house. Despite the assertion in the incident report that the latex glove of the wildlife biologist who seized Peanut was not broken, a, quote, rabies report form, end quote, claimed that the, quote, skin was broken, end quote, of the individual. The report notes that, quote, animal decap requested on October 30, 2024, and that the, quote, decap, end quote, was done by the city. Decap refers to decapitation, which is reportedly done in New York State so the head can be sent for rabies testing. I was following this story closely as it happened, and it happened at the end of October 2024, right before the election, and some people were saying this was the October surprise that could sway the election, and I think it did have a definitive impact on the election. And while there will never be justice for Peanut or Fred, some people say they're just animals. They're not just animals. Those were somebody's life. That was Mark Longo's pets. Those were his beloved creatures. It's not just animals. While some people are saying there will never be justice for these animals, I think it might have had an impact on the election, and hopefully with the work of Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch, there will be political hell to pay, because something like this should not go unpunished, and it should not go forgotten. I hope Mark Longo is doing well. It's no different than losing a dog under horrifically tragic circumstances. It's not because it's small that it somehow means less. So Mark, I hope you're healing well. Tom Fitton, Godspeed on the good work. And if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section because it feeds the algorithm. If you want to support the work that we do, you can go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and become a supporter. But most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!